Good evening. I'm your moderator, Penny Peck, and I'm currently the secretary for the League of Women Voters Eden area, who are your hosts for this candidate forum featuring those running for Hayward City Council. I do not live or work in Hayward. As with all League forums, the moderator is an objective person with no endorsement of any candidate. Welcome to our live audience and also to those watching this broadcast. By the way, this broadcast will be repeated on Monday at 6 p.m. If you have any questions about the broadcast, just contact the Hayward City Clerk's office. The sponsor of this forum is the League of Women Voters Eden area, which is a trusted, nonpartisan political organization that has been active in this area for nearly 60 years. Our members do the hands-on work to safeguard democracy. While we never endorse a candidate or a party, we are directly involved in shaping the important issues to keep our community strong. As a League of Women Voters member, I have the opportunity to contribute in ways that have a great impact on local, state, and even national issues. If you're interested in learning how to become a member and make a similar impact, I encourage you to pick up some of the League's information available here tonight or visit our website at LWVEA.org. Membership is open to men and women. The views expressed in this forum are those of the candidates, not those of the League of Women Voters, and the sponsorship of this forum is not an endorsement by the League of any candidate. It is our purpose in sponsoring meetings such as this to provide you with an opportunity to hear candidates discuss issues face-to-face that are important to you. There is never enough time to cover all the issues in a limited time and setting such as this. If your questions are not answered, feel free to contact the candidates directly. In the interest of serving the voters, we have cautioned the candidates to refrain from negative attacks on each other. For the same reason, we expect the audience to give each speaker an opportunity to be heard. This is not a town hall meeting format. We will be not taking comments directly from the audience. Also, in deference to our time limit, we ask that you hold your applause till the end. All candidates who filed for office were invited to this forum. Now, this is the format of the forum tonight. Each candidate will be given a minute and a half for an opening statement. Then I will read a question that each candidate will be given 1 minute to answer. All candidates get the opportunity to answer each question. Finally, each candidate will be given 2 minutes for a closing statement. This is a forum and not a debate, so the candidates will not normally address each other, but they are allowed to agree or disagree with a fellow candidate's answer or question. Also, we have collected some questions from the audience, which are sorted by our League members. We can only use concise questions, not comments, that are not personal or targeted at a specific candidate. All candidates will be allowed to answer every question that I pose. Now I'm going to introduce our candidates. I'm just going to go through their names, and then I will begin with our first candidate's statement. So we've put them in order by just drawing numbers. It's random, it's not alphabetical, obviously. Sitting in the number 1 seat is Council Member Francisco Zermeño. Next, we have Ms. Wynn Gersich. Next, we have Mr. Mark Salinas. Next, we have Mr. Matt McGrath. Next is Council Member Alyssa Marquez. Then we have Brian M. Schott. And in the final seat, we have Council Member Al Mandel. 3 candidates were unable to attend the forum. School trustee John I. Taylor, who's out of town on school business, and Mr. Kenneth R. Rollins and Mr. Leo Ram were not able to attend. All right, now I believe we're beginning with our very first opening statement, and that will go to candidate number 1, Council Member Francisco Zermeño.
It's okay. You all hear me? Very good. So I thank the League of Women Voters for this opportunity. Whenever I visit schools, whenever I run into students or youngsters, one of the things that I tell them is get back to your community. Go out, get educated, and then come back. Give us back. Give us your energy back. So therefore, that's something that I do. I lead by example. 38 years as an educator at Chabot College, mentoring students, creating leaders. 34 years as a business owner, mentoring small business owners to ensure that our backbone of small businesses in Hayward is a healthy one. 17 years as a library commissioner, planning commissioner, and as a city council member. It's an important job to be able to go out there and be an example. If you're going to tell a youngster, do this, do that, and you're not doing it yourself, that doesn't really bode well. The city of Hayward has been very good to me and to my family, a business, a job, 3 well-educated children, and then a house, a car, a dog. So I can't go wrong with simply giving back to this great city of ours. I was not born in Hayward, I adopted Hayward. Very important. So with that, thank you very much.
Hello, I thank the League of Women Voters for having this forum today. And my name is Wynn Gersich. I've lived in Hayward for 8 years. I attend many city councils, not just Hayward. I go all over the Bay Area. And I'm an advocate for health. I'm an advocate for things that are wrong in communities. And I try to get public opinions from people and try to get laws passed to correct things. And I've been doing this since 2003. And many of the times that I've met people and they tell me about things that are happening around here in Hayward, I'm trying to get them to come to the city council meetings and they won't come. So I feel that I'm an advocate for the voices that are not speaking up. And I hope this is a great city. There's a lot of potential for it. And I really feel that we can do things to make it much better. And the reason I'm running is I really think that we need rent control. That's number one. And everybody that I've spoke to, that's a big issue behind it. And I'd like to see the minimum wage raised now. And I know we can do it because I was there in Palo Alto last year. They raised it to $11 an hour. And the city councils have the opportunity to do that. But I also believe that the business owners need some kind of break. And if we have rent control, it's for them too. Because I would like to see too that the business owners have some kind of tax break that they can raise the minimum wage and it's not going to hurt the business owners. But most of all, I want to see that loop fixed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mark Salinas, and I wanted to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting us tonight. It's quite an honor to be here, particularly on the day before the last day of the end of Women's History Month. And so it's always, this is a very appropriate and a very timely forum. I was elected in 2010 to the Hayward City Council, and when I was elected to the Hayward City Council, it was peculiar times. The economy was imploding all around us. Economic development was an imperative. People were losing their jobs and people were losing their homes. And quite frankly, a lot of Hayward residents were losing hope. And it was a tough time to run for the city council. But when I was elected, I sat here at this dais and we passed an economic development strategic plan that I co-authored, where we made it easier to open and expand businesses in Hayward, where we created opportunities for businesses to create jobs and bring jobs and employ more people in Hayward. And we also created catalyst sites throughout the city of Hayward so that we can open businesses and expand businesses in critical strategic areas in the city. In addition, what I intend on doing is making sure that our economic development strategic plan is fully implemented, and I'll talk more about that as the debate goes on.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters also. It's an honor to be here. This will be my first open forum with the candidates. I've had a few interviews since this process has started for me, but this will be the first one in this forum. So hopefully I don't put my foot in my mouth tonight, so I'll try really hard not to. So I'll get to tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up in Hayward on Gadding Road, south side of town, and went to school here in Hayward. Out of high school, I enlisted in the Marine Corps, served my country. When I got out of the Marines, I was fortunate enough to get a job with the city of Hayward. It was 1984. I started as a laborer, working in the community, serving the community, and I didn't know at the time, but that was going to be a lifelong passion of mine to serve this community. I started coaching youth sports in the community, baseball, basketball, and trying to serve everywhere I could. But during probably the first 20 years of that service, I didn't think the city government was paying attention to the community. I was out in front of people's homes, talking to them and working with them, but I always thought there was a disconnect. And it wasn't until probably the last 10 years of my service that the council, the city manager's office started doing neighborhood outreach, community outreach, partnering with the communities. That was the most satisfying time of my service with the city of Hayward. I thought that was finally we were listening to the community and we were actually looking to serve the community. My tagline really for my campaign is to listen and serve. So I set my sights on when I retired is to come back and run for council to make sure we don't get complacent, that we continue to partner with the community and we reach out and we actually serve our community every day and make Hayward better, which I believe is in our future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Elisa Marquez, and I wanted to thank the Eden Area League of Women Voters for hosting this forum tonight, and thank you all of you for being here. I know it'd be nice to have a lot more people present, so really appreciate the people that made it out. Wanted to acknowledge my daughter, just to give you some background. It's my most important role as being a mother, and she just arrived from San Francisco, so thank you for making it. And just wanted to give you more of my background. I've lived in Hayward my entire life. I'm raising my daughter in the same home that I grew up in. I live in South Hayward, and since being a teenager, I've always been very active and engaged in my community. Prior to being appointed to the Hayward City Council, I had over 10 years of experience serving on different boards and commissions. I was the former chair of the Planning Commission, the Human Services Commission, and was also a member of the Sustainability Committee. It's very important to me that we have an active and engaged community. My background, my professional work is in social work, so I'm a very good listener. It's very important for me to interact with the community, get their opinion, and give them the opportunity to weigh in on issues that impact their lives. So as being appointed as a council member, it is a very challenging role, and it's one that I've taken on with great pride and passion, and have been working very diligently with my colleagues to continue to do what's in the best interest of our community. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I'd like to echo my sentiments to the League of Women Voters. A late friend of mine, dear friend of mine, Del Deladora, was so proud of that organization, not just for this forum, but for all your work year-round. My name is Brian Schott, and I come before you today as a person who moved here in 1968 with their family and started right away delivering the Daily Review. That's where I first learned the role of the city manager, because if I missed his house, I had a phone call by 6 o'clock that night because his name would be in the front page in those days. I'm a product of the Hayward schools through Moreau Catholic High School and then on to Cal Poly. I currently serve and sit in this seat as the Secretary of the Planning Commission. Prior to that, I've been involved on the Measure I Oversight Committee, and I was an active volunteer in getting that first bond in 50 years for the schools, and was very pleased to see that our work on that got the schools done ahead of schedule and $20 million under budget. And I think a lot of that was because of the work of the Oversight Committee, making sure that people did what they were paid to do. In my other spare time, I'm on the St. Rose Hospital Foundation Board. I'm a very active member of Hayward Rotary and All Saints. I have very, very deep roots in this community, and I look to serve this community for the rest of my life. Thank you.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting us all tonight. And for everyone here and who's watching from home on television, thank you for paying attention and being involved. You know, I first ran for city council in 2012 and was successful. Have been serving, obviously, ever since. And when I ran that campaign, I focused on 5 key priorities: making Hayward safer, making Hayward more attractive, growing the economy, making Hayward more youth-friendly, and then making Hayward more sustainable, both fiscally and environmentally. And in the last 4 years, I've kept those promises. Crime is down in Hayward 7% since 2012, citywide. The number of businesses are up 38% in just 4 years. That's 3,400 new businesses in one term. We have less graffiti and less litter, and we have more murals around town, making the city more attractive. Just one statistic, a 65% reduction in the amount of illegal dumping citywide since we enacted the illegal dumping ordinance in 2013, I believe it was. We have the first balanced budget. We passed a balanced budget this year without the use of reserves for the first time since the Great Recession, and we've won so many environmental awards I cannot keep track of them all, literally. And we are actually expanding our after-school homework help program, and we've started construction on the brand new library downtown for our kids. So much more to do, but we're off to a good start.
Thank you, and I want to thank all of you for staying on the time limit. We really appreciate that. All right. So our first question goes to candidate number 2, Ms. Gersich. What is the one thing you would change about Hayward, and how would you go about accomplishing that change?
The one thing I'd like to change about Hayward is the infrastructure. The water and sewer lines need to be replaced. This city has metal pipes. And I heard one lady tell me that, she's a school teacher, she was saying that her husband was a plumber, and at one school, the pipes were built in the 1930s. And I talked to a teacher over at Mount Eden High School, and he said that a lot of times the sewage lines break and the sewage comes up on the front lawn. And we put very corrosive chemicals into the drinking water, and our pipes are corroding all around us. And this is something that we really need to fix. We've done a lot of repairs on the outside, but nobody cares what's under the ground. I've been to the city councils, and I've seen the sewer, the awards they got, and I'm glad that they have a camera that goes down the sewer thing. But the water pipes and things like that, we need to have them replaced. And this is a nation problem, not just here. And because of the corrosive chemicals, we need to really look at that. And if we can do that, then we can use alternative technology to disinfect the water.
Thank you. Mr. Salinas, what would be the one thing you'd want to change about Hayward?
The one thing I'd like to change about Hayward is I'd like to make it easier for businesses to come to Hayward and to expand in Hayward so that they can hire more families in Hayward, so more families can call Hayward home. It's quite appropriate that we start with this question. When we passed the Economic Development Strategic Plan 2014-2018, we created a pathway to go out and recruit and bring more businesses to Hayward so that they can open, and with the goal to hire Hayward families first. I can't imagine a company not wanting to come to Hayward knowing that every May and every June we graduate hundreds of students from entry level all the way to professional level that can walk into a position and be successful and build companies and build businesses to grow. So if there was one thing I would change, is that I would make it easier for businesses to come to Hayward, to expand in Hayward, and open in Hayward.
Thank you. Mr. McGrath, what's one thing you would change?
Well, thinking about the question, I don't know if I could say I want to change a lot of things, but I want to improve everything. I mean, there's always room for improvement. But so there's a few areas, but one that would jump out at me always as being someone that grew up in this city and had a lot of places I could go and, for activities and things would be, we need to do better for our youth. We need to find more activities for our kids in our schools. So we need to collaborate with Hayward Unified School District and HARD. And I know there's a lot of programs available right now for our youth. There are some, but we need to make sure that we can get that word out. We need to start partnering more with the schools so that we can get to our youth and set them up for their future and show them that there's other alternatives in some of the directions that they're going in now. And that comes from someone that grew up here in this city and had hit some crossroads along the way himself and had to make some decisions along the way, but I had options and opportunities. And so that was one thing I would like to improve in this city.
Thank you. Ms. Marquez.
Thank you. As I mentioned earlier, my background is in social work, so that requires me to be a really good listener, not just from what people are telling me, but pick up on body language and kind of observe the environment. So I've been walking for my campaign for the last couple months, and the biggest thing that I hear a challenge across the board throughout all the different neighborhoods in Hayward is the lack of community engagement. We really need to change and improve the way we notice and inform our residents, our businesses, anyone that's being affected by any specific issue in the community. I think we should notice far in advance, give people an opportunity to weigh in, not just the public written notice, but call them, leave a message on their voicemail line, email them, do whatever is necessary to reach out to them multiple times to make sure that they're getting the information and having the opportunity to weigh in on the issues that are impacting their life. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schott, what would you change about Hayward?
What I see is a serious lack of communications, and it was brought up earlier, where are all the people? How would the people know about this? How would you know about it? Surprisingly, people don't just go to websites to see what's going on. I own a 43-year-old family business that does printing and mailing. We also do email campaigns. So I know firsthand the importance of putting printed materials into somebody's mailbox. We seem to say, oh, go to the website, yet when it comes to campaign time, our business gets very busy by people putting a message into the mailbox. And Hayward, because the Daily Review, the Bay Area News Group has, starting next week, is not going to be the Daily Review anymore. It's going to be the East Bay Times. And so we only get a little bit of coverage. So I think what we need to do is to find a way to communicate with our residents, our businesses, and improve communications with Hayward Unified, and especially with Cal State, East Bay, because there's tremendous resources up there that we're not utilizing.
So it's difficult to pick just one thing, but as a father of two young children, let me talk about that a little bit, because we need to make Hayward more youth-friendly. And one of the ideas that I brought just 2 years ago to the council was the idea for a new destination park in South Hayward. It's an idea that actually my kids suggested it to me because we found a great park in another city, and they said, why can't we have this in Hayward, Dad? I said, that's a good question. Let me go work on it. And so now we're partnering with HARD, and we've got a 30-acre park that's in the planning stages in South Hayward. It's going to be an attraction for the entire community. But we need to do more. We used to have movie theaters and bowling alleys and roller rinks all across town, and our kids still say they want them. If you ask our high schoolers, they say we want those things. So why did they all fail? I think I know. I think it's because they were alone. They need to be surrounded by other businesses that support them. So you put the movie theater next to the bowling alley, next to the pizza parlor, next to the ice cream parlor, and that is a way to make it successful in a place that I, as a parent, would feel comfortable dropping my children off for a couple hours and saying, okay, have a good time. I'll come pick you up when you're done. So that's a top priority for me.
Thank you. Mr. Zermeño.
All very good ideas. That's why I believe in collective wisdom. I would change our educational system. I want a collaborative, productive educational leadership. We're an education city. We don't know what to do with it. We have a Cal State at HUSD. We have excellent parochial schools. We have a Cal State. We produce Gates Scholars. We produce Tom Hanks. We produced award-winning musical programs and art programs, a system that produces all of these fantastic students that educated our three children very well. They're three very well-made professionals. And we don't know what to do. So what I would change is get all these folks together and say, now let's do this. How are we going to improve this? Because a better educational system will mean that businesses will stay here, businesses will come here, people will not take their children out of our schools, and everybody will improve. That's the constant thing that I hear. Your schools are so bad, Francisco. They're not.
Thank you. Our next question will begin with Mr. McGrath. What's the biggest challenge the city of Hayward currently has in allocating financial resources? Tell us why you think this and how you would address it.
Can you repeat that question,
Sure.
please?
What's the biggest challenge the city of Hayward currently has in allocating financial resources?
Well, in generalizing this is the city's budget is a challenge in itself. So allocating resources, finding a way to balance our resources with our expenditures, and when majority of our costs is, of course, we're a service industry, and it's staffing, salaries, and benefits. And then in addition to that, how do we maintain the infrastructure and provide the city services to our community? So one of the reasons I'm running for this position is I believe I have extensive knowledge in the budget, and that I can come in and bring a perspective and energy to this budget to where I can find ways to balance it and bridge some gaps between labor, management, between the community and the city government, and so that we can come to a conclusion, we can come to an agreement on how to best allocate those resources. It's going to be a challenge, but I believe I'm up to that challenge, and I have extensive experience in it, and I'm looking forward to that opportunity.
Thank you. Ms. Marquez.
Thank you. Right now, the biggest challenge the city faces is our reserves are starting to deplete. By 2019, we will exhaust our reserves. We have a policy to have 20% in our reserves, which is good, and it's a rainy day fund. Unfortunately, that's starting to deplete. So I'm very concerned about that. One of my top priorities is to renew the utility tax. It was formerly known as Measure A, now it's Measure D. It's the third largest revenue source. It brings in over $16 million a year. 75% of that goes to police and fire. The remaining $4 million goes to library, economic development, and street and maintenance services. So right now, in regard to allocation, the biggest priority is to renew Measure D on June 7th, or else we're going to be faced with serious challenges in 2019 when the current one expires. Thank you.
Mr. Schott.
I have to echo the other candidates in the budget because you got to have the money. And there's two ways. You increase revenues or you lower costs. I mean, having had a business, I understand it and deal with it every day. So the first, Elise mentioned the utility tax was the number 3, but the first and second, the first is property taxes. One, if you have better schools, the value of your homes go up and you get that percentage of property tax. So right there, everybody wins. Secondly is the sales tax. We need stronger economic engines. We need a strong, vibrant Southland Mall because that is, one, the oldest regional shopping center in the Bay Area, but two is that is where the most amount of money is going to be spent brick and mortar wise. Obviously, the internet has really depleted the sales tax, but then you have to look at costs. And you got to take a hard look and make people challenged to say, I've got to lower the costs. And the labor is going to be part of that. It has to be.
Mr. Mandel.
Yeah, I too will agree with some of the previous speakers about the importance of renewing Measure D. That is the city's third largest revenue source. Without it, we will be in deep trouble, and we won't be investing in things. We'll be cutting and fighting over where to cut things. So I really hope everyone who can hear me will support Measure D come June. Beyond that, we need to be prioritizing our resources. We can't just say yes to everything, right? We've got to have people up there with clear priorities and deciding, yes, we'll invest in this, no, and other things. That's a difficult thing to do. As someone who sat up here, it's difficult to say no because we're hit with 100 good ideas a month, but we can't fund them all. So we've got to have people who will stick to their priorities, keep their promises, and I think, I've proven I can do that. I think I have strong results on the promises that I've kept from my first campaign. And that means saying no sometimes when it's difficult, and we all know that. But it's something we have to remember as time goes by. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Zamenhof.
Well, the economy is strong and stronger than 4 or 5 years ago, but unfortunately the expenses are also stronger, actually. So we have an economy and then we have expenses, so we need to balance it out. I believe that collective wisdom of our council will then prioritize where the money needs to be spent. Careful spending, careful priorities. Measure D, of course, is an important factor on this. It was mentioned, if we don't have better schools, we certainly will not have a better economy because we have a transfer tax, we have property taxes, and if our property taxes are low, then we have less funds. So nothing operates in a vacuum. improve education, the housing market improves, our budget improves, our treasury funds improve. So it kind of works as a whole.
Thank you. Ms. Gersich.
I was surprised to hear that we had a balanced budget, and then we have another candidate that was saying that they're dipping into the reserves. And I know the city's $1.7 million in debt, and that's a lot of money. And the one place that you can cut is with the labor. And they can freeze their wages for a while. We have a city manager that makes $294,000. That's kind of outrageous, isn't it? And the city's been in red for many years, and they want this utility tax for another 20 years. That is outrageous. What we need to do is we can get people at cheaper rates. Do you know that Gavin Newsom in San Francisco, when Willie Brown left him $500 million in debt, he got rid of everybody who made over $150,000. He fired them all. And then he started over from scratch to build it up. And we can do things like that here too. There's lots of things. Do you know that Millbrae actually, they got rid of their police department and took on the sheriff's department, and they hired everybody at $10,000 a man cheaper. So that's what they did. And I go all over the Bay Area and I see what's happening.
Thank you. Mr. Salinas.
Yeah, I think a lot of the issues around our budget rest in educating the public around our budget. I was real pleased while I was a councilman that all of our budget process was transparent, it was open, it was on the website, and you can go to the website and you can follow, you can read the budget, and of course you can follow a lot of our labor negotiations that we had with all of our groups. I think when I was on the council, and particularly when I was first elected, and the economy was the way it was, I promised voters that I would do one thing, and that was to focus on core services in our city, because at the end of the day, we have to focus on our priorities. And those core services are fire and police and streets and maintenance. And so I think how we overcome some of our budget issues is that, one, we educate the public about our budget, and we focus on core services.
Thank you. Our next question will begin with Mr. Schott. This is also a finance question or economic question. What's the single biggest obstacle to robust economic growth currently faced by Hayward? I'll repeat that. What is the single biggest obstacle to robust economic growth currently faced by Hayward? And how would you resolve or remove that barrier?
The greatest, I should say this, the amount of money that we have spent on B Street from Mission Boulevard or Foothill Boulevard to here, it probably is $80 million that the city spent, not counting the loop. And we've forgotten our neighborhoods in the south in Fairway Park, where they still don't have a grocery store after Fresh and Easy left. We've forgotten our neighborhoods down in the Southgate area, where they don't have a grocery store. And the same would be true on in the Longwood area. Groceries don't generate a lot of sales tax. But if we can't provide basic supplies to people, you're not going to get people to spend the money in Hayward. And a lot of people, I know, I live up near Cal State, they'll go to Stone Ridge before they go shopping down here. That sales tax stays in the county, but the city of Hayward gets none of. So we need to improve the access to Southland Mall. We need to do more on the Tennyson corridor to get those taxable dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mendel.
So it's interesting, that question would have been really timely 4 years ago. You know, when I ran the last time, I heard from a lot of people about how difficult it was to do business in Hayward, difficult to open a business, difficult to develop. And it's something that I have focused on like a laser for the last few years with a number of changes. And Hayward is a much easier place to do business now than it was 4 years ago. There are 3,400 new businesses in Hayward since 4 years ago. That does not happen by accident. That's because we put in place policies that help it. We've streamlined things in our planning department, improved the customer service training, and cross-trained some of our inspectors and things like that. We've got a new pre-application process for potential developers where we bring them in to visit with council early so we can give them feedback early so they don't go off in some strange direction that ends up getting rejected 3 years and millions of dollars of investment later. Those are the kinds of changes, along with many others that I don't have time to list, that are making a difference already, and we just need to keep doing that and keep building on those successes.
Thank you. Mr. Zamenio.
Friendlier, more open to permits as they come in, going after folks that need to come back or need to be here, Ranch 99. I wrote a letter to Apple Computers. I said, come over and take over the bank on B and Main. That would be an excellent place for you. Chavez, et cetera. The other thing is, look at what Tennyson Road is doing and maybe follow that particular model. There are 152 businesses on Tennyson Road. I counted them all. Only one is empty. So how does Tennyson Road do it? So copy that model for A Street, for Foothill, and for the lower part of B Street to ensure that that same model gets copied. If they can do it, certainly the rest of the city can do it. So Tennyson Road is leading by example, if anything.
Thank you. Ms. Gersich.
Well, after hearing it was 80 million on B Street, and what do they have, 10 or 12 businesses that are empty and ready for lease? This is very sad to spend that kind of money on the downtown, and our downtown, that's horrible. I've seen Millbrae, where I used to work. I worked there 30 years. I was self-employed hairdresser, and I worked on the main street, which was Broadway. That thing's booming all the time. People are walking down there. People come to the town. I look at this, and there's hardly anybody downtown. And to see all these businesses, that loop hurt everybody that lived here. The biggest thing that everybody's talking about is getting rid of the loop. And that's something that people should address. I mean, do we have to get petitions for it or something? I know Francisco had told me that they actually fixed the loop. How did they fix it? They didn't fix it. This has hurt the business owners more than anything, and we need to do something for the people, especially in downtown. This is something that the business owners need some kind of tax break or lease break or something, that the only way we can fix this thing here in the main part of our town should be.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Salinas.
Yeah, I served on the council's Economic Development Commission while I was a councilman here. And some of the challenges that I heard, some of the feedback I got from a lot of Hayward companies and businesses were, one, that it was very difficult to get projects through planning and through development. And so through the plan, one of the things we did is that we did make it easier. And we did put in place policies that streamlined a lot of the processes that developers and business owners went through to open up a business or even expand a business. They talked about the length of time and the wait time it took to get plans approved. So a lot of these things that we have improved. The other challenge, I think, is that we have multiple plans. And we need to let's stick to one plan. Let's focus on our plan, on a plan, and keep to it and implement it. The other challenge, I think, is that we haven't focused on our education economy.
We'll come back to more economic questions shortly. Yeah. But next up, we have Mr. McGrath.
So these are some difficult questions. There's a lot of different aspects to every one of these answers, so you can't really answer it in a minute. So I'm going to try my hardest. So there's a lot of things we need to take care of, and I have to concur with some of my counterparts here had said about the streamline of the process. For years, I heard how difficult it was to get something through development services and planning. I know there's major improvements have been done there. That's really, really important. But in addition to that, we need to make sure the businesses that we do have continue to thrive. It's kind of like Field of Dreams. You build it and they will come. And if we get the businesses that we have and we listen to them and partner with them too so that they can continue to thrive, what are their issues, then the adjoining properties can be filled because they know that is a vibrant community. So we need to make sure that, here we go back to my partnering with my community, let's make sure that we're taking care of what we have now and then we can grow from there. Thank you.
Ms. Marquez.
Thank you. I have several ideas to address this issue. When I was on the Planning Commission, one of the things that I advocated for is we do have limited resources. So it's really important when we're looking at CIP funding, the capital improvement funding, that we should be focusing on the gateways to the community. That's the first image. That's the first look that people have in a glimpse into Hayward. So I think it's really important to start investments with infrastructure into the gateways and then work our way in. A lot of points have been brought up about Tennyson, which is an amazing. The vacancy rate is like less than 1. And what makes Tennyson so successful are the small businesses. So we need to strengthen and support and make sure we do whatever we can with our policies to retain our local business owners. My family has a small business. They've had it for 50 years. The building next to them is vacant. That's blight, that's graffiti, that attracts crime. So it's really important that we have well-established businesses running in Hayward to grow the tax base. Thank you.
Mr. Schott. Oh, did you? Oh, thank you. Excellent. Thank you. Our next question, we're going to begin with candidate 3, which is Mr. Salinas. This is, I had planned to ask this question later, but I want to bring it up now because we've already touched on it. So Mr. Salinas will begin, and then everybody will get a chance to address it. What is your vision for growth and development of the downtown?
Good question. Hayward is real fortunate to have a university and a community college. 42% of our city's population is a student. And what a lot of folks don't realize is that on any given budget year, about $500 million associated to an education economy is in the city of Hayward. So there's a large student population, there's a large young professional population, there's a large administrative population, and a professional population. So my vision for downtown is to bring in restaurants. My vision for downtown is to bring in housing development. My vision for downtown is to create a green place, a sustainable place where we can bring and make it a place where people can come to our downtown easily by transportation, public transportation. So it is a hub. It is a true downtown central hub for our city that not only Hayward can come to, but neighboring cities can come to.
Thank you. Mr. McGrath.
Thank you. So, yeah, I have a vision for downtown. I have a vision for Hayward, and I use the word, you'll probably hear it. If you follow me around, you're gonna hear it a lot. It's about community. And so downtown, my vision is a community. It's vibrant businesses, the restaurants, mixed use, housing, commercial. It's people walking around the city, saying hello to each other, caring for each other because they're partners in the community, just along with the businesses and everybody else that's here. So I have a vision. I can't do it overnight, and I'm not gonna be able to do it alone, but that's my vision, and I'm gonna continue to push for that, this type of vibrant community in our downtown and the adjacent areas also. I'm not gonna forget about anybody. Every area, every square inch of this city is gonna be cared about and represented by me. But downtown, yes, walking around, hello, how are you?
Thank you. Ms. Marquez.
Thank you. I'm going to continue to do what I've been doing well as a council member, and that's listening. Just a couple weeks ago, we voted down to not institute paid parking in downtown Hayward. We were very receptive and mindful that downtown Hayward is starting to see this economic resurgence, and it's too premature. We don't want to do anything to negatively impact the businesses. I also support the bike patrol police officers. It's been extremely effective. Hayward is a small town. You still get that feeling of everyone knows your name, and that's one of the things that we're really good at doing, and I want to build upon those successes. I also need us to improve wayfinding signs so people know where parking's at, so they know that it's free and that they can enjoy our restaurants, our bars. It's an entertainment destination, and we need to continue to enhance that and let the public know of the wonderful amenities we have. I'll end there. Thank you.
Mr. Schott.
You're not going to have a vibrant downtown unless people are living closer to it. People are not going to get off their couches, drive in their car, drive around whether parking's free or you pay for it. You have to have more housing downtown to have that critical mass, to have the people who will have lunch at restaurants, because most restaurants can't make it just on a dinner crowd. They need to have lunch to at least break even. We have a project that Planning Commission just approved or is looking at in a work session, the Maple in Maine, which is several hundred units down the street. The Mervyn site, the former Mervyn site. We also have to look at the old City Hall 11-story toaster and the former site of where Centennial Hall is. You need to bring that young population, because the young population now wants to live downtown. It was not popular when I was growing up. Everybody wanted to be in the hills or in the suburbs. Now they want to be where the action is. So we need to bring energetic housing that young people want to be in, and places where seniors can age in place downtown and spend their money.
Thank you. Mr. Mendel.
Thank you. So I have a clear vision for downtown. You know, I want an adult and family-friendly entertainment and restaurant district. We need a mix of uses downtown, as some of my colleagues have alluded to. We want more housing, yes, but we also need more retail and some commercial office space to supplement the lunchtime crowd. We need a balance of uses. I would like to see us do to Main Street what has been done over the years to B Street. You know, B Street is our big success downtown. It's the place that people think of when they think of downtown, the safe part of downtown that they like to go to. So let's do the same on Main Street. Let's shrink it from 4 lanes to 2. Let's widen the sidewalks so we can have some of the restaurants do cafe seating. Let's put tilt-in parking to make it easier to find parking downtown. These are things we can do relatively affordably and will make a big difference. So, you know, we've got some good bones in the downtown, but there's more work to be done. That mix of uses is very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Semenya.
Well, one of the things was getting rid of that big black hole, which is the green shutter, and I think I had a small hand in actually it being done, so that I'm very proud of that. I want to see shuttles from not only from Cal State, but also from Chabot and from the high schools and all from the industrial areas. It's good to have a shuttle from Cal State, but we have got 20,000 older students who can come over to our downtown. I would like to see a carless Main and B Street, perhaps every Sunday. We have street parties that are tremendous, so let's try an experiment. It's done in other cities throughout the world, where on Sundays they close to traffic and people are out there, family, youngsters, dogs. And then you take Main Street, as my colleague Mendel has stated, and you take Main Street, make it a two-laner, then you go with some cafes, sidewalk that is going to be wider. So there are many possibilities as far as that goes. And we'll need a new garage behind Buffalo Bills if we're going to have every place filled.
Thank you. Ms. Gersich.
When you're talking about only having one street down to 2 lanes, I wouldn't want to eat outside when you've got 6 lanes going down the main drag onto the freeway and you've got all the exhaust. There should have been a trolley or something there to bring people downtown. And if you're talking about college students, they like to go dancing. That's the big thing, dancing and music. And we do have a few places here, but it's usually for the older people because it's more rock stuff and it's not a pleasant young person's type of music. And if you're going to bring young people down here, like Francisco said, we do need trolleys, and that was something I support. But I also think, too, is that we need things for the people to do. Even a bowling alley. Wouldn't it be kind of unique to have some kind of, even a few lanes for the young people? Not maybe a massive one, but do things that the young people want. More arcades and things that young people do that their families could come down here and enjoy. And this is something that our city doesn't have. Our city is not youth-friendly.
Thank you. Our next question, I think we're going to begin with Ms. Marquez. Do you support an increase in the minimum wage for Hayward workers? If not, why not? If so, what would you raise the amount to? And how would you sell the idea to small businesses?
I do support increasing the minimum wage, but in order to accomplish that in our community, I would first want to convey a stakeholders meeting with Chamber of Commerce, other small merchants. A lot of the merchants in Hayward do not belong to the Chamber of Commerce, so we have to make sure that we're aware of the negative impacts it may have on small businesses. So definitely get that support, that discussion early on, and I would look at best practices, what has been done in, I know, Emeryville, Oakland, San Jose, San Francisco. There are many surrounding cities that have implemented that. So I would definitely want to conduct a lot of research and have discussions early on so we can get community support to adopt that ordinance.
Thank you. Mr. Schott.
Well, the minimum wage has been in the newspaper the last few days with the recent deal that Governor Brown has signed to increase it to $15 in about 5 or 6 years. As a business owner myself with a payroll of over $1 million a year, I don't support increasing the minimum wage on a city-by-city basis. I've seen it happen to colleagues in my business that have moved out of San Francisco to South San Francisco. What people don't realize is they're not all the minimum wage people are flipping burgers or baristas at Starbucks. But when you move that minimum wage up, everything else moves. Now all of a sudden employees all want the same raises. And so when you move it up, I think you were suggesting a $15 an hour raise, you move up the minimum wage by 50%, all the other employees are going to want 50%. And it would be a good reason for my business and other businesses to move to Union City, where they don't have that. So I think it's very detrimental. I was the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce for 1 year, and I can speak for the 1,200 members that are here, is messing with the minimum wage on a city-by-city basis is very, very dangerous.
Mr. Mandel.
Yes. I was the first member of council and the only one to my knowledge before tonight who came out publicly in favor of increasing the minimum wage. I did it 3 years ago at a council meeting. Said we should be doing that. I think that the way you do it so that it's not disruptive to businesses is you do it gradually over time. You don't go to $15 tomorrow, although that is a good goal. You raise it in increments so that businesses have time to adjust and it minimizes disruption. But we absolutely need to raise the minimum wage. It is impossible to survive in the Bay Area on the minimum wage. There are people who are struggling, trying to do it, working 2 and 3 jobs. That is ridiculous. And if we do it, it will be good for the local economy because the folks who are making the minimum wage spend every penny, most of it locally, helping a lot of the businesses that are paying their workers minimum wage. So they get the benefit of it too. It's not just a negative for those businesses. It is absolutely the right thing to do, and I'm glad to see the state and the governor finally moving on that.
Thank you, Mr. Zemeno.
Well, I was glad to see that Brown and the unions, our unions, were able to come up to an agreement on the $15 wage, minimum wage limit, because I think it's good. It will not affect Walmart and Target and all these other folks, but it certainly will affect the smaller businesses, which is why before, as it's stated now, this thing will go gradually. It's not that next year it'll be 15. It's just going to be a gradual. By 2021, there will be $15. So that gives an opportunity to the small businesses to figure out how to balance this actual increase. So that's good part about it. Good part about it. I mean, I had a business for 25 years, and I had employees, and I was paying the minimum wage. But it worked out. To all of a sudden go, boom, 15 per hour, that's tough. So I think the dialogue with our small businesses is very, very important.
Thank you, Ms. Gersich.
Oakland is already at $12 an hour, and many Oakland people have moved to Hayward, and then they were shocked to find out that we're down at 10. And nobody can survive on that. And like Mr. Mandel said, I've known people that have worked two jobs. They work 16 hours a day. And this causes crime. They're not home with their kids. They're calling on cell phones when they're driving in at the job that I worked at, because I'd worked for Avis for a while. And to see these parents that they get less than 7 hours of sleep, it's detrimental to everybody. But our President Truman actually doubled the minimum wage back when he was in office, and it was a big bolster to the community, everything. The businesses did better. It was wonderful. And $15 is not, when you look at what we're paying the city workers, our city manager, $294,000. That's a lot of money, isn't it? And you're squawking over $15. We need to do things for the business owners to not have them hurt.
Thank you. Our next question will begin with Mr. Mandel. What will you do about the rent control issue?
It's a good question. So Hayward right now is one of the most, if not the most, affordable community in the Bay Area. Certainly of all the cities that touch the actual Bay, the rents here are cheaper than anywhere else. And so, we're doing it's still expensive, but we're doing a better job than most other communities at providing relatively affordable housing. And so I think I'd want to proceed cautiously. I'm willing to look at the idea because there are a lot of folks out there struggling with rent increases and trying to consider whether there's ways to to keep those to a modest level. I'm open to that, but like I said, Hayward is about as affordable as you can get without moving out to Tracy or the middle of the state. So I think it may not be at the top of the list for Hayward. Thank you.
Mr. Zermeño.
Well, Mr. Mendel is correct that we are the cheapest in the Bay Area. I absolutely, but I still receive many emails from renters who say, Francisco, can you help me out? My rent has been increased to $100 still per month. So that's something that needs to be looked into. So what do? So I send them over to FESCO, I send them over to Eden Housing, et cetera, but it's very, very difficult. Our rent control works well with our mobile home parks. I think that's something that we need to perhaps look into if you want to take it to the rest of the city, but we need to study it a little bit more because you're going to have a lot of kickback on this. You're going to have a lot of folks be adamant against it, as you've seen in Alameda and San Leandro and Oakland.
Thank you. Ms. Gersich.
Richmond's taking it to the ballot to have rent control. And rent control is a necessity. And Francisco's talking about $100. Most of the people I've spoken to, it's $300 and $400 they've been raised. And every time I'm down at the shopping center near my house, and the post office is right there, people are going to change their address because they have to move out of here. This is a really mass depopulation when you're raising your rents $300 and $400 because nobody's income goes up like that. That's why when you look at someone saying, oh, $15 an hour for minimum wage is too much, even at 15, you still can't rent an apartment. You'd still have to have 2 jobs and you still wouldn't qualify. So when an apartment around here is like $2,100 a month, you have to make $6,300 to qualify. My son graduated from Cal State Hayward. He's a supervisor at Tesla, and he doesn't make that. So your big college dream to get a job and to be able to do something with your life or be able to move out of your parents' house, it'll never happen. When you look at that, it takes 2 incomes, if not 3.
Thank you. Mr. Salinas.
We have to be very cautious in how we approach the 2 last questions, minimum wage and rent control, primarily because our goal as a council is to keep businesses in Hayward and to develop our economic infrastructure. And, and so we, I agree that we need to look at minimum wage, but I also agree that what our governor is doing the state legislature has come down with a policy or legislation to increase minimum wage. But with specifically about rent control, we also let me say it this way. I'm an educator, a college educator at that, and my goal is to prepare students for professions so that they can afford rents and they can afford to buy a home. And I think what our goal should be is to promote home ownership at all costs.
Thank you. Mr. McGrath.
Thank you. So rent control. The only thing I can tell you now about it is that I agree with Mark about promoting our businesses, and I think people that are investors and developers should get a fair market value for their investment. So what I can promise is that if it came to the council, that I would do what was right, what was compassionate, but at the same time what was best for the entire community. Ms.
Marquez.
Thank you. As a council member, right now, one of my biggest priorities is preserving our affordable housing. We recently voted down to not fund a first-time home buyers program because we learned from experts that sit on the council with us that unfortunately the inventory is very limited. So we have to be very smart and resourceful with the limited funds we have. So I voted no on that because I feel like it's more of a priority to preserve the current affordable housing we have. We also have strong ordinances that protect our mobile home parks. We have over 11,000 units in Hayward that are protected by rent ordinance that's outdated, but it's a very serious issue, and it's one that I'm aware of, and our community is starting to ask questions. So again, it would be something that we need to engage the community early on and find out whether or not it's something we need to address here as a body. Thank you.
Mr. Schott.
Yeah, presently, the Hayward ordinance affects 5 units or more. I strongly support the rent control on mobile home parks because they simply can't pick up their mobile home and move it because the space went up. But beyond that, I'm a strong believer in the free market. We've heard over and over tonight, we got to get our property tax base up. We got to generate the economics. Owning an apartment building is a business. And if that apartment owner is running a good business, and that means a good property, people are going to be willing to pay that rent. And if you're not going to look for more infrastructure into Hayward to have high-end apartments coming in, that the math just doesn't work out for these guys to have all of it be affordable housing or all to have a limit to how much they can charge, the housing won't come here. They will go across the bay, they'll go to Millbrae, where the rents are $3,500 for an apartment. So at $1,200, $2,100 is still a bargain for housing in this marketplace.
Thank you. Did everybody get to address that question? I think now we're on to our final question. We're going to begin with Mr. Zermenio. What is your development vision for Mission Boulevard between Tennyson and Industrial? And if you want to broaden that question to talk a little bit about any part of South Hayward, I'm fine with that.
Tennyson and Industrial.
Yeah, Mission Boulevard between Tennyson and Industrial, or the South Hayward area.
Right, okay. I like to see our skating rink back. That'll be right next to it. Certainly would be a good place for another bowling alley. Most of that property was Caltrans. It would be a good opportunity to put some more green space on the west side of Mission, perhaps next to a community center, which would be tremendous. We are working on plans of extending Tennyson Road up into the hill with a destination park. That's going to be another jewel of the city of Hayward, with some homes on the old quarry. So that's a lot of promise. Of course, make sure that we have enough retail at the same time. We have a couple of buildings that are a little decrepit that need to be rebuilt. And then the Holiday Bowl, of course, is in the process of being remade on that property. So things are really looking up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Gersich, I'm sorry.
Have any of you seen the Silman Center in Newark? It's wonderful. And they got the developers to build that. So I think if we can do things with the developers, maybe we can get some things done cheaply. You know, they're developing. They can give something back to the city, too. And like the Silman Center in Newark, it's absolutely wonderful. We could do that over there. I do agree with Francisco. We need a park and we need a bowling alley or even an ice skating rink. Ice skating's really popular. There's a lot of things that we need to think about how to do family things, and Hayward doesn't seem to have that. And that's what I'd like to see. I know we need more stores and things around there that kind of support that, too. But my big push was to get something like the Silman Center. And they had a big article on that newspaper. Check out what it looks like. It's really amazing.
Thank you. Mr. Salinas.
When I was on the council, I voted, we rezoned that entire corridor, and I voted to strike out any uses, future uses for liquor stores, tobacco stores, and predatory check lending stores. So from this day forward, those businesses will never be on that corridor. So my vision for that corridor is that it's a healthy corridor. My vision for that corridor is that it's got businesses and shops. My vision for that corridor is that it's a walkable corridor. It's a bikeable corridor. That corridor has easy transportation up and down from Cal State East Bay, where we have large outdoor markets, outdoor farmers markets on the weekend, where that corridor is a reflection and an extension, in fact, of the hustle and bustle of our downtown. We should have a shuttle system that runs through that corridor that can easily take folks from the neighborhoods and can take folks from downtown and from Cal State to engage in that corridor in a healthy, sustainable way.
Thank you. Mr. McGrath.
Well, first, can we get a grocery store somewhere in South Hayward? That would be nice, maybe in that area. But that corridor has a lot of potential, being right near South Hayward BART. The development that's going on right now is going to be, I would like to copy some of that down the open space that we have adjacent to that and some of the state property over there by Val Vista. So I think mixed use with commercial and retail is going to be very, very important for that corridor. We need to get, for South Hayward, we need a grocery store somewhere. If it goes back in the Fairway Park Shopping Center, great, or if it's on that corridor. But we need to get some business over there for that community so they can spend their money in their neighborhood and take some more pride in their neighborhood.
Thank you, Ms. Marquez.
Thank you. Great things are already happening in South Hayward. This week, Fire Station 7 is fully up and running, so very excited to announce that. We have the amazing project across the street from South Hayward BART, which is affordable apartments as well as market, that's in construction right now. We're also going to be renovating that entire corridor from Tennyson all the way to Fairway Park, undergrounding the utilities. It's part of the infrastructure for the 238 project. So that's already in the pipeline. What are we going to do with the land that's vacant? There's lots of vacant Caltrans parcels. So we took leadership here as a council member to enter into an agreement with Caltrans. So that way we can have a say and we could let the public know and have them weigh in on what vision do they want to see in South Hayward. As I said earlier, it's really, really important to engage the community. We don't have all the great ideas up here. We really need to listen to the community and find out what they want. Do they want the destination park? Do they want a grocery store? So I'm willing to be open and listen to the needs of our residents so we can enhance that entire area. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schott.
When I ran for mayor unsuccessfully 10 years ago against Michael Sweeney, I advocated for much of what is kind of starting to happen now. Caltrans is the #1 slumlord in the city of Hayward, and it starts at B Street and A Street, and it goes all the way down Mission Boulevard. The city is now working with Caltrans, negotiating. I'm thinking, why should you negotiate? Why should Caltrans benefit from eminent domain 40 years ago? But that area from, and I don't know why we stop at Tennyson, because we can go all the way back to Harder, or at least from the shopping center on Sorensen and go south. That area has got to have opportunities there, both housing. We've already talked about the grocery stores, but we need to get a plan for the Caltrans property and get it going now so the development community around there knows what to expect.
So I live in that part of town, lived there for 17 years, and what those of us who live there want are a mixture of uses. We want more housing, that's fine, but we want the parks to go with them so that the families who are there now and the ones who are coming have a place to go and take their kids. That's why I proposed that destination park for South Hayward that we're working on now. We want more retail. A grocery store is at the top of the list, but some nice restaurants too. And so that has to be part of any development plan. I think we should consider putting the new police station that we have to build. We haven't talked about that. We have to build a new one sometime in the next 4 years. We should consider putting it on Tennyson. That is one of the highest crime neighborhoods in the city. Imagine what a potential game changer it could be to have the police station smack dab in the middle of that community. It could transform the entire Tennyson corridor. And our city manager deserves great credit, along with the city council, for working with Caltrans to get control of those properties so that we can decide locally how they are developed so that we can get those balances of uses. That was an innovative step we took and a lot of work, but kudos to her and the council for pushing it, and it's going to pay dividends for Hayward for generations.
Thank you. I'm going to throw you guys a curveball because I think we have a few extra minutes, and this question from the audience is something we haven't touched on at all. So we'll begin with Ms. Gersich. What environmental projects would you support for Hayward, and what projects would you see that would mitigate climate change?
The one thing that I would really like to see is these bicycle exchange. They've had them in Berkeley. They've done things where they've had in front of city halls where they've had bicycles and people just take them up and ride them. They were doing it in Seattle for years. I also, I definitely want some kind of chemical detector over there by that power plant because they've had leaks, they've been charged with things, And we need some kind of lock-in-place thing if something happens. And we also, safety comes first. And I did protest that power plant, and then they built it, and I live over there, and I've got asthma, and many of the people around us, and we don't even have an emergency ward here anymore. You have to go to San Leandro or Fremont. So until Kaiser builds one, and there's so many people having these problems, there's things that we need to do to help that way. And a lot of these environmental projects that I'd like to see are, and I don't have much time left, I would like to see more people walking. I would like to see more bike paths and things that are beautiful, but I definitely want a trolley that goes down the middle part of, over here where this corridor is. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Salinas.
Yeah, I think generally speaking, and I think philosophically, I do support transit-oriented developments. I support bringing developments into closer to downtowns, bringing business and jobs into centralized areas where people can work and live and shop and engage in civic life in downtowns or in other clusters along public transportation lines. I work for Cal State East Bay, and one of the neighborhoods that we are currently working in, the Jackson Triangle, it'd be great to take the Jackson Triangle and make it into a transportation or a transit-oriented development where we can bring more public transportation, but also bring experimental transportation like shuttle service in between Chabot, the neighborhood, and Cal State, and downtown, and Tennyson Corridor. It's right in the middle of the city in close proximity to all these great hustling, bustling hubs of our city.
Thank you. Mr. McGrath.
So I think Hayward does a pretty good job, actually. I worked, like I mentioned, I worked for Hayward for 30 years and sat on the Climate Action Committee at the inception of it many, many years ago. I don't want to tell you how old I am. But Hayward's always taken it very serious. As the Director of Maintenance Services, we purchased the first electric vehicles and installed electric charging stations at the parking structure. But every development that we're doing now should have the environmental impact. We should make sure that everything is green, solar powered, wind powered, whatever we can do. And I know Hayward does that. If you look into what they're doing on when they approve their projects, if they do look into this, it has to be sustainable for the environment and reduce our carbon footprint. And I know Hayward takes that very seriously. I do, and I would be an advocate for anything that we did, any project that we approved, that we took the environment first into account on the impact on our environment.
Ms. Marquez.
Hayward is a leader when it comes to sustainability issues. I was a member of the Planning Commission and helped adopt the Climate Action Plan, and we have a lot of things working in our benefit. As was mentioned earlier, we've received multiple awards, so it's really important that we continue to build upon that infrastructure, put solar panels on all of our buildings, encourage shuttle operation, ride-sharing program, bike-sharing program, and it's really important when we're making decisions up here, when we're looking at development projects, that we support projects that have complete neighborhoods, that have the amenities people need, so they don't have to get in their vehicle. They can walk to the grocery store, they can walk to the cleaners, they can walk to a cafe. So I want to support development that supports that. And it's really important, like I said, to engage our young people, get them to talk about recycling, reducing their waste, and we could partner with our school district and our university and Chabot College to educate young people the importance of sustainability issues. So that's how I would lead in those efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shaw.
Yes, as a member of the Planning Commission, every project that we have coming before us has requirements, and I think I applaud the city for that. And that includes charging, not necessarily stations, but having the units pre-wired in the garage for charging stations. And if it's a multiple public use parking lot, they have 1 or 2 charging stations for the public to be there. They have to be solar. They have to be energy efficient, and I think that's a big first step. But we attended a Planning Commissioners Academy a few weeks ago where they talked about complete streets, and cities like Palo Alto and Berkeley who are looking at making streets so they are pedestrian friendly, they are bike friendly, but yet still serve the role of moving vehicles and cars. And there's not one street that we have in our community that would be qualified for that. And I think that as we develop the areas around us, then I think we need to look at more of that complete street model. The last thing would be is a better use of our traffic system that we put in with the 238. You got to stop.
So the question is, what sort of environmental projects would I support? And I would answer it this way. Every project should be an environmental project. Every building should be a green building. Every rooftop should have solar on it. Every garage should have electric vehicle charging stations in it. And for 10 years, I've served on the City Sustainability Committee, and I'm currently the chair, and I've been fighting for those policies, and we have a lot of them in place now. I can't remember the last time we built a large housing development that didn't have solar on every roof. That's what we need to be doing, and the city needs to model that. We are working now on a policy that would have the city's municipal operations be zero net energy, meaning we would produce all the energy we need for all of our city facilities. And anyone who says that can't be done, just look at the water pollution control facility. A decade ago, that was the city's single largest consumer of electricity. Today, it is the city's single largest producer of clean, green, renewable power. It can be done. We've proven it can be done. We've won awards for that success. And now we just need to make all buildings green buildings.
Yes, I am a member of the Sustainability Committee, and we do follow our climate action plan quite aggressively. I was at an MTC meeting, and they were talking about bicycle rental plans, and they were saying, "Oh, we're going to do them on the East Bay." And I said, "So what's Hayward? Chopped liver? Why don't you go to Hayward?" "Well, we'll do that later." So I became persona non grata to FTC because I'm fighting for bicycle here, green bicycle lanes. I need more trees in Hayward. 29 years as a tree city. I think that's tremendous. Chabot College has solar energy because solar panels in our parking lot because I pushed it, and I also recommended Southland to do the same. Let's see, more shuttles or one large shuttle to connect everybody, and let's start experimenting with carless B and Main Streets. Why not? Let's get going. We're hurting Mother Nature. I'm the only city councilman who protested against that plant out there. So,
Thank you. Before we do the closing statements, I want to let the audience know that we apologize if there are any remaining questions, which there are. I encourage anyone whose question did not get answered to contact the candidates directly or contact their campaign offices. And the League of Women Voters also, we have a website called voteredge.org where we will post brief interviews with some of the questions and have our candidates answer them. So in just a moment, we're going to begin with the candidates' closing statements. You have 2 minutes to summarize your qualifications and positions. And so let's begin with candidate number 3, Mr. Salinas.
Thank you. And again, I wanted to thank the League of Women Voters of the Eden area, of course, for hosting this evening. I think this is a wonderful opportunity to bring voters together in one place and to engage in our city's most critical and most relevant issues. I was born and raised in Hayward. There's an old saying out there that says that you can't get more Hayward than being born at St. Rose. And I was born at St. Rose. I was educated in Hayward. Went to all Hayward schools. And I grew up in South Hayward. I grew up in the Schaefer Park neighborhood. And today, after graduate school, my wife and I married, and we made Hayward our home. And we're proud of that. We live in downtown Hayward, and we walk to downtown Hayward. And in fact, tonight, after this session, we're going to go to Buffalo Bills because that's where we carry on all the after political talk. So Hayward, I've never given up on Hayward, and I've always made Hayward home. What I want to do when I come back to the city council, voters willing, is I want to make sure fire and police are fully funded. I want to bring jobs back to the city of Hayward by making it easier to open and to expand businesses. I want to make neighborhoods cleaner and healthier by promoting policies that make neighborhoods cleaner and healthier. But most importantly, what I want to do is I want to strengthen our schools by building partnerships across the entire city and bring them to a new type of school model, a model that has been proven in other cities, which is community schools, where we bring in businesses, we bring in neighborhoods and nonprofit agencies to step in and support our schools and to support our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McGrath.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters and everybody in the audience. As I mentioned, I grew up in Hayward and I started working here in 1984. I worked till 2014 when I retired, and I had set my sights on coming back and running for city council to be a policy maker, to have a vote on the city council. I believe that my experience living in the city and then working my way up through the ranks, I have a unique understanding of the organization and the community, that I want to bring that energy and that experience to the city council. I've been very satisfied with working with the city council prior, and I think that we've done a lot of good things in the recent, last probably 10 years, but I think we can do a lot better, and I want to be part of that. We did a lot of community outreach, but I don't want us to get complacent. We need to get back out in the communities, and we need to partner and listen to our community members and the businesses. We need to include everybody. I'm the guy that's going to go out there and do that. I'll be at the meetings. I'll be involved with the community. I care about them, and that's what I'm looking for. So I'm hoping to get your vote, and that I can bring that energy and that passion to the city council. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Marquez.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight, as well as the League of Women Voters for hosting this, and also thank fellow candidates for making this a positive experience. This is the first time for some of us, so thank you for this opportunity. I want to be elected as a council member. I was appointed. It's been a huge honor and a privilege to serve, but now my goal is to be elected. My roots in the community run deep. I have a daughter here, family here. I was educated here from kindergarten up to graduate school, so I have a lot of pride and passion. There are 3 things I can promise you. Number 1, we're not going to agree on everything. Number 2, I will listen. And number 3, I will be accessible and really want to improve community engagement. Public safety is a huge concern when I'm talking to voters, so I want to make sure, as I mentioned, that we renew Measure D. But along that, I'm very mindful of sales tax and property tax. So once I'm elected, my priority will be to grow the tax base, to strengthen the community with the school district, so the property tax goes up, to enhance amenities at Southland, in downtown Hayward, on Tennyson Corridor. The list goes on, so we can increase those revenue sources and not have to be so dependent and have this conversation 20, 30 years from now. Maybe my daughter will be up here making that decision. So again, I'm just deeply rooted, deeply committed, and very honored to have the support of police, fire, our Mayor Holliday, and several community members, broad-based support from business community, faith-based community, and longtime Hayward residents. So thank you again, and I would be honored to have your vote on June 7th. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schott.
Well, we have a unique situation here in that 40% of us have a chance of winning this office. And I think that's huge. It's better odds than the presidential candidates have. You each have 4 votes. You can use all of them or just pick the ones that you like, the ones that you believe in. But the cooperation is going to be the key. Whoever sits in these 4 seats going forward have to work together, have to put aside differences that are going to come up during the campaign, because we could be sitting next to each other for 4 or 4.5 years if Measure C is successful, working together. And so I think that cooperation is very, very important for all of us. Same thing, we also have to be pushing Hayward Unified School District to get their act together. To sit here and watch the 5 of them is unbelievably frustrating, maybe even bordering on illegal. But yet what happens at Hayward Unified School District, the trustees are holding back our bond measures because that money was passed 2 years ago and we haven't broken ground on a single new project. Unlike what I did on Measure I, where we had our projects, we had our bonds sold 30 days after the Registrar of Voters certified the election. We were breaking ground months later, meeting with the community. I know what it takes to get a lot of people together all the time, through all my volunteerism, working with the Chamber, working with Rotary, and I would hope that you would take a look at what does Hayward need. Hayward will not get the economic basis that all of us have envisioned that you heard tonight if we don't have better schools. Better schools bring better developments. They bring better businesses here, not just the minimum wage people, but the business executives themselves who have far more resources to spend in our community. And I would ask for your support on June 7th for Brian Schott. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mandel.
Well, thank you to the League and to my fellow candidates for a really well-run debate tonight. It's been a pleasure. Hayward is moving in the right direction. You know, I've been walking precincts for several weeks already and talking to people. You can feel it out there. Everybody feels it. The downtown is livelier than it was before. The city is safer. There are lots of new businesses coming around. Hayward is moving in the right direction. And the job of whichever four of us win for the next 4 years is going to be to build on that momentum. And I think you want to ask yourself, as you're just casting your votes, which of the four of us are best equipped to do that? You know, I think I've proven with my 4 years that not only do I make it very clear what my priorities are, but I keep my promises, and I stay focused, and I've been successful. The results speak for themselves for the current council members who are running for re-election. And I think that's why I've been endorsed by Congressman Eric Swalwell, State Senator Bob Wykowski, State Assembly Member Bill Quirk, Mayor Barbara Halliday, and the entire City Council. I believe I'm the only member who can say that, which does speak to the, cooperation is key. And I think I've proven I can work with my colleagues up here. That's why they're endorsing me. I've been endorsed by the Hayward Police Officers Association, Hayward Firefighters, Hayward Mobile Homeowners Association, the Alameda County Building Trades, many individual labor unions, and the Sierra Club. I'm proud of those endorsements. I'm proud of the fact that I have support from throughout the community, from community leaders, business owners, HOA presidents, from all parts of the community and all corners of Hayward. I think that tells you that tells you the way I go about my work. I listen to everyone. I try to work with everyone and try to do the job to the best of my abilities. I'm proud of that support, and I would love to have yours as well come June 7th. If you want to learn more about me, you can always visit alforhayward.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zermenio.
Thanks to the League, thanks to everybody who's here. Let's see, Hayward and I adopted each other something like 38 years ago, and because of that, I've been an active member of this city. I'm very proud of the fact that I have worked with youngsters, mentoring them to become leaders. I have brought people together to collectively make decisions that are good for our city and for our educational system. I have promoted, attracted, and retained businesses, very, very important. I push for bicycle patrols downtown and on Tennyson Road. So I'm a member of the Hayward Chamber of Commerce, the St. Rose Foundation. I've been a mentor at the Puente Project. I'm a president of the Hayward Area Democratic Club. I've been a union member for 38 years. I'm a member of the Rotary, and I co-founded the Tennyson Community Committee because Tennyson Road needs some help, Tennyson Community. So why have I done all this? Well, I've done it because we, as a collective Hayward family, we want a strong, safe community. We agree on that. We want a strong educational system for our youngsters. We want more Gates Scholars. I certainly believe that we can produce them. We want more Tom Hanks. I want a strong local economy. I am a champion for shopping Hayward first and local economy through cash mobs, etc. Most business owners in Hayward know who I am and know that I am a doer, not a talker. I have the time, the energy, and the vision to get things done and to move our city forward. And I think that with that, my family says thank you. My daughters say thank you. And if you certainly would appreciate your vote and support on June 7th. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Ms. Gersich.
I thank the Women League of Voters for having this opportunity to be able to speak. I would really love to be on the City Council. Since 2003, I've been an advocate for many social issues and health issues. And I really feel that there's a lot of things that need to be done. I'd like to see this city in the black for once. I don't want to see it broke all the time and being taxing everybody to death. I actually represent the common person here that makes about $52,000 a year. And I see these retirees that have to move out of here because they can't afford the rent. I see people all the time, hurting for money. And I do believe in rent control. And it's also for the businesses, too, because I had a business owner I was speaking to, and his rent went up $300-400, but his business isn't doing that good. And, I owned rental property, and my father owns a couple apartment buildings. And I grew up in a family with being a landlord. But I'll tell you this, I think with the gouging, $300 and $400, this is absolutely absurd. This is not the America that I know. And I do believe that minimum wage should go up. And we can change it right now. We can make it $12 an hour right now, tomorrow, if the city council would vote for that. And the things that need to change in this city, I live in a high crime area. I live in the Tennyson area. And when I moved there was bullets shot in front of my house. There was 7 bullet casings in front of my house right when I moved in. And years after that, I've had 3 times where they've shot bullets right in front of my house. We had 9 bullets the last time. We've had people spinning donuts and crashing into the car in front of us. I hear roosters crowing in the morning. I see these memorials of every place along Hayward Boulevard where people have died, and these memorials stay there forever. I have a neighbor that keeps Christmas lights on all the time. I want to see the community cleaned up, and I want to see people that don't mow their lawn. If they have to, the city should mow it. We've got volunteerism, that the children get hours for doing that. Help somebody that's old that can't mow anymore. Do something to clean up the community. And we need a Trader Joe's over there by Tennyson, and I'd love to have the police there.
Thank you so much. I'd like the audience to join me in thanking our candidates for a wonderful forum. Thank you so much. And before anybody gets up, I do have a few closing remarks. Again, I just want to remind everyone that the views expressed in this forum are those of the candidates, not those of the League of Women Voters, and the sponsorship of this forum is not an endorsement by any candidate. The League would like to thank the audience, candidates, and we acknowledge that the candidates are serving the community by their willingness to participate in the democratic process by running for office. If any of you watching at home missed part of this broadcast, it will be repeated Monday at 6 p.m. To find out more about the candidates and voting information, check out voteredge.org, which is part of the League of Women Voters, and to remember to vote on Election Day, June 7th. The League of Women Voters does hands-on work to safeguard democracy and leads to civic improvement. So visit our website at LWVEA.org to help keep our community safe, strong, and vibrant. Thank you so much. Thank you.